Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the book Refuge and welcome to another recommendations video. First, I gotta show off another new shirt. I'm gonna have a lot to show you in the next few videos because when I got my taxes back, I went on to Etsy and I bought like 5 or 6 different bookish shirts. I showed my cowboy one in the last one. This one that came in says, "It's not hoarding if it's books," which I firmly stand by. Also, if I were to die buried underneath my books, so be it. It's fine. But anyway, we have a recommendations video today, which is Marriage in Trouble. This is a bit of a crossover with one I did. I mean, it's been a while since I did it, but I did do a second chance romance, and I know that I included some marriage in trouble in that when I did it. But this one I specifically wanted to focus on already married couples, not people like coming back together who were never together to begin with. Most all of these couples that I'm going to share have been together for quite a few like years. There's only 1 or 2 that it's like a newly married couple and then they have troubles, just because I want to focus on, number one, I love this trope. I love well, I don't love when people are estranged, but I love when it's couples who have already had their courting time, or it was an arranged marriage, as will be the case for a lot of these, or even ones that were love matches and then something goes wrong. Either it's a trauma that separates them, or it's a, usually a miscommunication that gets in their way, and I love seeing how they have to handle those to get back together. Some of these are going to be books that you have probably, most likely, definitely heard of before, because there's a few Booktube darlings in here, but then there's some that are really new reads for me, and they're ones that definitely weren't included the last time I did this video. So let's start with Love Her, Lose Her by Tessa Bailey. This one, real quick, this is part of her Hot and Hammered series, which I absolutely loved. This one is about this couple that they were high school sweethearts, really. They've been together since they were very young. He is an ex-military man who he's not great at talking about his feelings, and his wife, the thing with them is that they have great sexual chemistry. They have their standing sex date that they have weekly. They have time for each other. They do their thing. But our heroine is feeling really neglected by the hero. She feels like he doesn't see what her dreams are. They don't communicate. And so she's ready to pack up and get out of there. Our hero thinks that everything's fine. He doesn't know what is bothering her, what's going on. And so when she says she's ready to leave him, he's literally like, whoa, what? And so he begs her to give him another chance. And so she decides, he's like, I'll try anything you want to try. So of course she decides she's like, he will never do this for me, so let's pick therapy. And he's like, okay, I'll try it. Absolutely love this book. This book, I really appreciated the therapist in this one. They talk a lot about love languages, which is something that really drew me to the book and really just kept me sucked into it, because I loved how they were learning to communicate with each other. And I loved that the heroine was called on some of her miscommunication too, because just because she likes to talk about how she feels, that doesn't mean that that's the only way to show that you love or care about each other. And that's what love languages teaches us. Then I have Ever After Always by Lysse. This is this is so good. This has a plus-size heroine. This has a hero who suffers with anxiety. This is part of her Bergman Brothers series. Now, I only have read this one so far. I do plan to read the others. It just hasn't happened for me to do it yet. But I really loved this one. This is a couple, again, they were absolutely obsessed with each other when they got together. And then he has been anxious about things, and it has led to certain, like, sexual dysfunction, which has then led him to not make a move with her, which has led her to feel unloved, and it's just led into this spiraling thing that they can't get a hold of until they reach a point where they're like, we cannot go on until we look into this. One of the things that was just made this one not quite, because so the situation with Love Her or Lose Her is that they give themselves a certain amount of time to work on this, and I feel like that was a longer period of time than what they like Ever After Always, they don't set a set amount of time. So it's not like they have quite the same ticking clock. But when they are actually working through everything, it does kind of happen over one like weekend or family vacation that they take. And I just felt like that was, like, I wanted there to be a little more time of them working on it. And granted, like, the book's not saying that they fixed everything in that, but it was just, like, I really love this book. I'm just telling you that in regards to, like, the therapy and working through their issues, I feel like it happened pretty quickly. But it was still a good book, so don't mind that. And then I have the Bromance Book Club by Lyssa K. Adams. This, like I said, this is one that is definitely a Booktube darling. I remember hearing about this book so much when it came out. I have enjoyed the whole series so far. I'm very excited for the fourth one to come out. But this one is the one that started it all, and we learned about the Bromance Book Club. And we have Gavin, who is a baseball player, and he finds out when he's having a sexual encounter with his wife that she orgasms during this encounter, which is a great thing, right? Orgasms are good. But the thing is, when she has that orgasm, he realizes that she hasn't had a true orgasm in years. And so he feels betrayed and lied to. And she is like, why are you freaking out about this? I'm the one who's been, you know, hiding this. Not quite realizing that in this situation that we've come to, like, this isn't just his fault. And that's something about this book that as time has went on, I reflect more on, is that this wasn't all Gavin's fault that she wasn't having orgasms. Let's be real, ladies. If you lie to your man about this, and then you're not having orgasms and you're faking them, how is he supposed to know that you're still faking them? This is something that I've seen some great, like, sex advice people give advice on, is that you're not helping either of you if you're faking these things. In this book, it tends to be more about, like, Gavin is the one who needs to fix something, but this is still a staple. It's still, I really enjoy the Romance Book Club in here. And so it's worth bringing it up. And I really did like, particularly I did like book 3, and I'm really excited for book 4, but thought I'd bring this up. Then there's also, oh man, I have a stack. We're going to go into, oh wait, here it is. I was like, I knew I had another contemporary. I was trying to do the contemporaries first. There's Filthy Vows by Alyssa Torre. So this one, I would give it the caveat that this one isn't completely like marriage in trouble, but it is about this couple who feels like they're maybe missing a little bit in their relationship. And what's great is that they actually are willing to talk about it. And so they decide to experiment with some things sexually. And so this one is the first one. It's actually a duet. They're both like novella size, and they both basically make like one book. And this is about a couple who decides to look into the swinging lifestyle as a way to kind of mix it up. So again, this isn't a couple that is like, they're not in the same straits that like these previous ones I mentioned where the person's ready to walk out the door. That's not it at all. But they do feel like they're missing something and they're feeling kind of unsatisfied. And I actually think there's really great communication in this one. So, you know, just trying to show you the areas of this. But yeah, this is Filthy Vows and like Twisted Marriage, I think. Can't remember what the second one is called. I'm trying to find it. Yeah, I don't remember, but it's like Filthy Vows and like Twisted Marriage, I think, are the two of them. All right, let's dive into the historicals now. We have Lady Isabella's Scandalous Marriage by Jennifer Ashley. This is the second book in the Mackenzie series. I would say you should read this series in order. The first one is The Madness of Lord Ian Mackenzie, so of course I'm going to recommend that one because I freaking love it. But this one is about one of the Mackenzie brothers, Mac Mackenzie, who's an artist. And 6 years ago, when Isabella was 18, they like eloped together. And it was a huge scandal, and it was absolutely amazing. Then, after a traumatic event, trigger warning for miscarriage, Mac is an alcoholic. And when this miscarriage happens, they're just like not communicating very well. And even though Isabella loves him so much, she knows that honestly, for her own mental health and well-being, she needs to separate herself from him, because she can't watch the love of her life slowly like destroy himself. So now Mac, he does like nude portraits, and so he, of course, he has this reputation as being this like scandalous artist. I mean, it's one of the things that first attracted her to him. And so they've been living apart. Sorry, it's hard to like describe this. And something brings them back together, and she decides to, or he asks her to be his muse again. I don't know, but somehow it was worked out that like he wants to paint a portrait of her this time. And also Mac has worked on becoming sober. He has been sober for quite a few years now, but he hasn't felt like he's worthy of Isabella after what he put her through. So he has this reputation of like sleeping around with his muses, which, spoiler alert, like that's definitely not true. That's not what's happening. But he's kind of let it perpetuate because he doesn't want to give her like false hope or anything. But anyway, this book was so beautiful. I really loved it. Again, remember the trigger warning if that's something that bothers you. But I really liked how things were worked through between the two of them. I loved how obsessed Mac was with her. And when he lets himself hope again that they could be together, it's so beautiful. So highly, highly recommend this one. Then we have Lord of Darkness by Elizabeth Hoyt. This is book 5 in the Maiden Lane series. I do highly, highly recommend that you read this series in order. I know not everyone's going to do that. That's my official recommendation, because people are like, do I need to read these in order? Seriously, people ask me that. When in doubt, guys, you should always read a series in order. You can be stubborn and say, I don't give a fuck, and read a book whenever you want. And a lot of people who ask me, can I read books out of order? I'm like, well, what do you want to do? Because of course you can. Of course you can. But for the Maiden Lane series, for the best experience, I highly recommend you read them in order, because there's reveals that happen during the series that are best served in order, okay? Like, this author wrote an amazing world. So people who want to ask me, this is what I'm telling you. I'm officially telling you, you should do it in order. But that being said, book 5 is about Megs and, let me find his name, and Godric. And now, there was a tragic event that happened in a previous book here, which left Isabella and Godric, not Isabella, Margaret, or Megs as we call her, in need of a husband. And so something rather happened that Godric ended up being the person doing that. Now, Godric was a widower, and he never plans to sleep with another woman again because he loved his wife. His wife died tragically of what we think is cancer. She wasted away in front of him. It was horrible. The cover doesn't show this properly, but he is a silver fox. He's gorgeous. He's much older than her, and he has a secret identity. And now there's something that brings them back together, and it's the fact that they've been married now 3 years, and Megs has just been happily living in, like, literally they got married and then they went their separate ways. But she writes him letters once a month about what's happening at the estate, and now it's been a few years and she really wants a baby. And so she comes back to London to convince her husband to give her that. And at first he's like, no way, no how. I don't plan to ever sleep with anyone again. And then something's happened where they end up making a sex deal. Basically, this married couple makes a sex deal with each other where Godric promises to work on giving her a baby if she will do such and such. There's something that he needs her to do, but I can't remember. It might just be to, like, stay safe. If you, like, stay out of this, I'll give you a baby. But what's very interesting is that Megs has a little bit of a double standard going, and this is what I found fascinating about this book. She needs him to have sex with her and obviously find his pleasure to get her pregnant. He needs to come. But she still wants to hold herself back and not find any pleasure in the act. And there's a really beautiful scene in this book where he confronts her about that. And it just makes this story so powerful because he's like, you know, I love somebody else too. And I'm the one who made a vow. Like, I made a vow that I would only ever sleep with my wife, his first wife. And he's like, I'm breaking that for you. Do you think I don't feel horrible and like that I don't want to do this? But like, I don't have a choice. So how dare you withhold yourself from me when I literally can't withhold myself from you to give you what you want? So that's going a little bit deeper into the story than, you know, maybe some of you like want to hear from me when I'm doing recommendations, but I just want to say what really made this one stand out for me is, number one, I love that they were both kind of widowers in a fashion, a widow and a widower. And I loved the clash of wills between the two of them. I love that he was a grumpy hero. And I just love St. Giles and everything that's happening there. So if you haven't been convinced to start this series yet, here's me giving you another plug, because honestly, books 4 through 9 in this series just blew my mind. Overall, I loved so many books in this series. It's so good. Then I have a recent read, and that is The Prince of Dreams by Lyssa Kleypas. This is the one, like I said, that it kind of breaks the rule that I'm going for, because this couple, they aren't married at the beginning of this book, but this book is broken into 4 parts. And in the first part, it is our heroine, Emma, is actually in love with someone else. And we have Nicholas, who is an exiled Russian prince. He was accused of treason and like tortured, and so he's in exile now, and he can't ever go back to Russia. And his distant cousin is married to Emma's dad. So they are like called cousins, but they're definitely not. There's no blood between them. And he's barely even a cousin to his like cousin, right? And he ends up making it happen that she doesn't marry that guy, and then he offers himself as a replacement. And so Emma, in the beginning of this, she hates him, doesn't want to marry him, but then she sees it as like, well, who else am I going to marry? And that's like in the first part. And then in the second part, we see their marriage, and we see that he is purposely holding himself apart from her. He's never going to love anyone. And so he manifested his destiny. Like, he made himself be married to her. Like, he made that happen, but then he will never love her. So he really trapped her in this situation. Now, what makes this book amazing is that Nicholas gets Scrooged. He gets Christmas caroled, okay? This grouchy, cruel man gets Ebenezer Scrooged and gets shown a past life and gets shown what could happen if he truly loved someone and what the sacrifice of love really means. And so this does consist of a marriage in trouble to me, because they get married and then he's holding himself back from her, and there needs to be like serious change before they can be together. So I really loved this book. I gave it 4.5 stars, and I was very impressed. This is one of Lyssa Kleypas' older books, and it just was really great for me. It really worked. So highly recommend. Then there's one that I'm actually like am currently reading, but it was kind of inspiring me to do this video, so I wanted to show it. By the time you see this book, I will have finished it. It's definitely going to be at least a 4-star. We'll see if it pulls a 5-star out of the end here, but that's the Ray Kill of Roth by Amalie Howard. This is the second book in the, I think it's the Everly sisters, or the the Regency Rogues, I guess is what we're going with. I've seen it called a couple different things. On Netflix, it's called like the Everly sisters or something. But this one, as we know from the first book in the series, which is The Beast of Bezek, we know that, I think this is Isabel. Yep, Isabel was married to the Marquess of Roth, and then he bedded her, and then he went to London and left her at his estate. So it's been 3 years. She's hardly seen him since, and she's decided that she wants, like, basically it's like she wants kind of revenge, and she also wants him back in her bed, and she wants a marriage. And so he has his reasons for kind of punishing himself for not being with her, but she is actually, this is actually one where like her and her best friend write like an advice column. They write like a spicy advice column, which is called Lady Darcy. And so she's definitely much more knowledgeable than the virgin that she was back then, even though It's not like she's been taking lovers or anything, because this wouldn't be a romance if we were. But he has these like deep-seated reasons of like self-torture, of like why he can't be happy even though he has this woman who like deserves for him to make her happy. And yeah, I really liked it. These are definitely very angsty books. Like I would say The Beast of Bezek and The Ray Kill of Roth are both very angsty, but there's that. And I mean, if we're going to talk about angsty, I wanted to include this one because I thought it was kind of funny to put it in A Marriage in Trouble. And if you've read this book, you'll know what I mean. And I actually wanted to put Shanna in. You know, it took me a long ass time to read this big book, and I liked it. So I'm going to recommend it where I can, because this is a Kathleen E. Woodiwiss. This book came out in 1977, and I really liked it. It had a lot of the aspects of an old school romance that you would expect, but I didn't really see many aspects of like dubious consent. There is really only one scene that could maybe be construed as that. And for the context of what's going on in the story, I don't even really think that it fits into that, but I'm just being honest if that would maybe bug you. But this book is, we have Shanna, who's a spoiled rich bitch. Okay, let's just say it. She is a spoiled rich bitch. And her father, who is a very loving man. So when I explain the situation, her father, I really loved her dad, but he wants Shanna to get married. He knows that he's not going to live forever. He needs an heir for his endeavors, and he wants her to have a husband who will take care of her. Like, his feelings behind her needing to be married are all good. But he does kind of give her an ultimatum. He's like, if you can't find a husband in this amount of time, then I'm going to find you one. Okay? So, might seem unfair. Cool. So what does Shanna do? Shanna goes to the local prison and finds a man who's on death row. And she's marrying him the night before he's going to be killed. And all that he asks is that his last night that she spend with him. And basically have sex with him before he dies. Plot twist, she has him knocked out and returned to his cell. So they've gotten married. They're going to consummate it. She has him knocked out and returned to prison. And so she tells her father that she married him, but then the guy died. And so now she's a widow. And now she's safe from having to marry anyone else. Plot twist again, Rurark, instead of him being killed, he gets sold as an indentured servant. And who does he get sold to an indentured servant to but her dad? So not only is Shanna not a widow, but her husband she's married is now a bondservant to her dad. And he is returning to the island that her father owns to be his bondservant. And he is bound and determined to have his night with his bride and claim his wife. So the reason why I put this in A Marriage in Trouble is because technically these two are married this entire book. But Shanna plays the victim quite often, and I'm not saying that lightly. Woman plays the victim when she is a wealthy, rich, white woman bitch who her father owns an island. And all this man wants is his conjugal rights. Which I know, if when you read it, you'll realize I'm not maniacally laughing for no reason. Like, Shanna's a lot to handle, and Rurark is a fucking saint, okay? I am not exaggerating. He, in his, like, calm, firm ways, really teaches Shanna something. The thing that made this book work for me, and I'm telling you, this is a big book. This book is 650 plus pages, and for a lot of it, our heroine is very frustrating. But I mean, and I'm probably telling, a lot of you probably have read this. I know I have a lot of older viewers who like have read some of the older historicals. And I was just so glad to read one written in the 70s that I honestly, besides the parts of it where I feel like it could have been like, this could have been slimmed down, okay? Definitely could have been slimmed down. But our hero, he had so many aspects of the heroes that I love, like the way he is possessive and determined and protective and very sexy and just all these things. And in a non-toxic way. Like, honestly, the toxic person is Shanna. But I just loved it. So I didn't mean this to turn into a full review of Shanna, but I wanted to explain why I have it in Marriage in Trouble. Because I know that that's strange. But honestly, like, They are married the whole time, and they are in trouble for a lot of it. There was some of the most romantic lines I have ever read were in this book. But I'm telling you, you'll have to keep the baby and the bathwater for this one to be good. You can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You gotta have it. But if you're someone who doesn't mind like an epic, like it was very satisfying by the end of it. Like, I was pleased that I read this whole book. If you want to hear me gush more about it, there is a video on Books with Samantha's channel where we did the live show for this. I was part of her book club for that, and I gush about it even more. I think I was the most enthused of everyone because I was just surprised that it pulled itself off for me. But okay, the last one I want to talk about, and again, this is one that I feel like you can't make a marriage in trouble without this book in it, and that's The Day of the Duchess by Sarah MacLean. This is the third book in the Scandal and Scoundrels trilogy by her. This is about Mal and Serafina, and they have a marriage in trouble. They were married, I can't remember how many years back. This one also has a trigger warning for a miscarriage. Our hero feels like he was tricked into marriage, even though Serafina really did love him. And now she's asking for a divorce. At the beginning of this book, she is petitioning Parliament for a divorce. And Mal doesn't want to see her in pain anymore. So he agrees to give her a divorce if she will help him find a replacement Duchess before he releases her from this marriage. Because if he agrees to the divorce, it will go easier. It will go faster. And of course he has a plan to actually woo her, not to give her a divorce. But this has a wonderful grovel in it. This has a beautiful exploration of a relationship and what can tear it apart when you let other people's opinions in, when you let other people's lies in, what it can do to the relationship. And I just found it to be fascinating and delightful, and I really love this couple. Even though this book is very angsty and painful, it is beautiful. So there we go, everybody. Those are my marriage in trouble recommendations. I just love this trope so much. I always find it so satisfying. I love when there's a deep history between the characters that we get to see come up when they're working through their struggles, and it's just something that I love so much. So thank you so much for watching this video. I put up new videos 3 to 4 times a week. Make sure you subscribe and like this video. It really helps my channel. And check out channel memberships if you're interested in more access to me. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Bye.